Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So obviously today we're going to talk about Palantir's AIP Con and what I think about it. I just watched all the 3 hours of it on Arnie's stream, and so the thing is like this. This, I think, was going to be a nothing burger for the stock price. I know a lot of you want to know, like, what's going to happen to the stock after this. The thing is, the reason why this was going to be a nothing burger is because we already know Palantir has fantastic products, so there was nothing that they could show on this event that would change that fact, except for one thing. If they could have shown a product that is very scalable and very small companies can start using them and scaling up, that would have been a very big stock price moving thing. But that didn't happen, and it was very much not likely to happen. With that said, I think that the event blew my mind at a couple of points. So here are my key takeaways, and then I do want to show you the best presentation that I believe shows you how AIP works. And yeah, if you're not blown away by this, then there's something wrong with you, okay? So the key takeaways. First, the event started with an Alex Karp interview, and my key takeaway as a shareholder from that is he said that this last month they have gotten more interest than they have gotten in all of last year. Basically what this means to me is that there is a huge chance that what the market is pricing in, that they're going to do way more than this 20%, and they might go back to 30 to 40% increase in their revenues, which would make the stock price dirt cheap at the level that it is. Obviously this is just speculation. You have to know your risk level. This might happen, might not. He didn't say that they were closing these customers. He said that they are getting the customer interest. So do that with what you will. Then the event was followed up by Shyam Sankar's very technical presentation, which, to be honest, completely went over my head. I probably have to watch it 2-3 times more to understand what was happening. The key takeaways from that is he was basically saying that the large language models are not a thing because there's so many of them, they're so easy to do since ChatGPT was the first one. But since then there has been, I don't know, he gave numbers, and again, this is just my fast, I might get the facts wrong, but I think he said that there's like 10,000 large language models, and some of them have been downloaded like 10 million times. And the point is that what he thinks the future is an app layer on top of large language models. So companies that can develop apps using large language models that can obviously handle the data safely and securely. It's transparent, you know, you can meet regulations, and basically it's everything what Palantir does. And then he went in to show a really complicated demo, which again went way over my head. The whole time I was thinking, where's CodeStrap? Where the F is CodeStrap? We need him to explain what was going on. But one thing that really blew my mind is that he was building a program for a customer, and then he said, what if you could, you know, make this process easier? And then he said, you take your large language model, which is called Leo in Palantir's case, and then you tell him what you want done. So he basically said, I need an application that does this and this and this and this, and then the large language model wrote the program using Palantir's thing. And I was completely mind blown on it. Again, I need to watch that a few times, but what I got out of it, you have to keep in mind that these conferences are for potential future customers, and I believe that it's the IT departments and the C-suite of those companies that are watching this, and I think that they understand what is going on. We're watching this as investors. This is sort of like Tesla's AI Day that is done for recruitment, and then you start watching it and you don't get any of it. On Arnie's live stream, I made this joke that we need to type into ChatGPT like, please access the YouTube transcripts of this and just explain it to a simple person. So I still might do that because I didn't get what was going on. And then the conference was followed by a lot of companies, and to be honest, a lot of companies were telling successes and how good it was going with Palantir, but what I didn't like so much is some companies couldn't really give exact use cases. So you could see on them that Palantir was very fast, they delivered very good value, the company was using like scaling within the company, that was a reoccurring theme. But I didn't fully like the presentations where it was not use cases, which would, you know, even watching it from the outside, it gives you a very good reality of what Palantir does. But again, this is a convention for future potential customers, and those customers are sitting there, and after all these presentations, then they go into, and you know, these potential customers can ask other customers questions, and so it has a lot of value, but not necessarily for the investors, because I guess the people who are watching this channel are investors looking outside. But there was this presentation, which has been crazy good. So we're going to watch that together. This is the best presentation, I believe, out of the whole AIP Con. And if this doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what does. So let's get into it.
All right, thank you, Bob. Good day, everybody. So as Bob mentioned, I run our digital data, cyber, and cloud solutions business at Jacobs, where we're really focused on solving some of the most complex problems in critical infrastructure. And I've been really honored and excited to develop this partnership along with our team with Palantir to really solve the most complex problems for critical infrastructure and the solutions that are around that. As Bob mentioned, our goal at Jacobs is to create a safer, more resilient and connected world. And I can't think of a use case that isn't more exciting than focusing on how we improve the water cycle for the entire planet. So if you think about this is critical for a lot of reasons. Not only climate change is stretching our need to expand our ability to leverage our resources, the need to reduce our carbon footprint, as Bob said, not soon, but quickly, very fast. And then, of course, the staffing shortages and the waves of retirements of some of our most experienced and excellent operators across the entire utility community. So although this might not be the most glamorous use case, our friend Bernardo at JD Power got me really excited about buying a new car. I probably don't need to buy a new car. I'm going to get you excited about how we're harnessing the power of artificial intelligence to improve water treatment. So we're going to see how AI acts as a co-pilot. Sean did a great job showing how we set this up, from not only using it in real time to optimize decision-making while we're operating our utilities, but also when we think about when the stakes get higher in the wake of a massive storm, and then, of course, for long-term planning and how we deploy our assets going forward. So this allows our operators to interface with troves of data, complex data using natural language, as we've seen today. So I'm really excited to show 3 use cases of what we're working on together with Palantir and what we've got getting deployed here to our customers very soon. All right, so first up, we're going to talk about how we're operationalizing our data. This is Jacobs' Aqua DNA platform, where we combine our deep domain expertise and wastewater treatment, coupled with Palantir and the Foundry platform and AIP. So first up, if you take a look at this, we're looking at the entire city. So this is an entire wastewater treatment system on our Aqua DNA platform powered by AIP. So if you think about it, it encompasses millions of people. It's the city's core infrastructure, it's the drainage, the sewage, the treatment plants, and everything that happens in this complex system. So it's the valves, the sensors, and the catchment basins. And at any moment in time, our operators are making thousands of decisions to optimize what they're doing. So if you think about it, first of all, if you send too much water to a wastewater treatment plant, you could flood it, causing millions of dollars in equipment damage. That would take down the city's ability to treat wastewater. And if you don't manage your storage appropriately ahead of a storm, you could run out of critical capacity, causing an overflow and leaking polluted water to the local environment. So to guide these decisions, systems are typically outfitted with numerous sensors. And what we've heard from our utility operators is in the last 2 years, they've captured more data than in the last 20 years combined. Think about how difficult that is. The flow of information, no pun intended, becomes very difficult for them to leverage and optimize their systems. And on top of this, with all these assets being added to the networks, it introduces a new vulnerability for cyber attacks. All right. So in the face of all these challenges, let's see how Aqua DNA helps me monitor our day-to-day operations with the data that we already have. So this is just day-to-day operations in a utility treatment network. So first of all, everything is centralized in Foundry. We've been able to connect all of our data from design, operations, security, and bring it all together within the ontology. So this means we can compound our returns and introduce and have fewer vulnerabilities. So we're able to rapidly ingest and process all the disparate sets of data, which were previously disconnected, creating confusion and often unproductive noise in the system. So again, it's all being processed real time into standardized, reusable models for our ontology. So AIP is enabling me to proactively monitor for the changing conditions in the system that might require human attention, such as maybe a cyber breach or even a clog. We were talking last night, surprisingly, one of the things that we find often in clogged wastewater treatment systems are blue jeans. We were hoping to maybe recycle some jeans for y'all here today, but we didn't do that. So anyway, so we'll see here that there's an alert that there's a potential clog. Let's assume it's some Levi's jeans in one of our drains. So I'm going to zoom in on this clog and see what action I need to take. So again, we've got real-time digestible data of what's happening and where this clog fits into our system. It is going to require maintenance, so I obviously want to understand how urgently I need to dispatch a crew. And I also know that a storm is forecasted for this weekend, and I want to make sure that I'm taking that into account in how I make prioritized decisions. So with that in mind, I use the AIP Assistant to help pull in that forecast for the upcoming storm, and it simulates it across the entire system. So AIP is going to pull in the weather forecast data. It's going to bring it in as a new layer and estimate how much wastewater is going to flow into the system. The AI is then able to call on our specialized Jacobs design simulation models, such as our flood modeler platform, to really understand the impacts of this storm. So I can see now that we're getting 2 new alerts with this simulation, with one showing that this clog is going to result in an overflow. So clearly this warrants a high priority fix. I'm going to go ahead and assign maintenance in the platform, and then that automatically updates their schedule and it redirects the crew. This conversational real-time scenario model is really, it's a huge step forward from the complex manual work that would have been required to perform this analysis in the past and get that maintenance crew to address the clog before the storm comes. And this is really due to our ability to query massive amounts of data in real time and map out different scenarios so we can make the critical decisions in a timely manner. So next, we're going to amp up the stakes. So we've got a storm coming, and we're going to see how we can leverage our Aqua DNA platform to manage the forecasted storm. So here, I'm looking again across the entire system, but now I'm seeing how this storm is going to impact us in the future. So the platform tracks where wastewater is entering the system and continually updates our forward projections, feeding our risk models and giving us alerts. Only now, in addition to those alerts, we have a few types of adjustments that are going to take place automatically without me needing to dispatch any crew. These are being executed by our AI agents that we've been talking about today in some of our other stories. They're trained in our system's historical data, and they help adaptively keep things in check throughout the entire. Important to know, I'm still in full control. I can monitor all the actions that the agents are taking, their effects, and adjust, override, or disable their behaviors. But they're taking care of hundreds of optimal decision-making adjustments for me, which could include things like adjusting valves, diverting wastewater, and updating some of the treatment parameters. So with that being said, some actions are clearly too consequential to be taken automatically, right? So here we can see that AIP has surfaced an alert. It's showing me that there's a risk of an overflow in the next 2 hours. And it's going to make some recommended diversions to avoid that overflow. However, it is showing that it requires my input to take action. So I'm going to dig into those recommendations to understand what's driving it and the potential trade-offs associated with it. So it helps me see the path leading to the overflow risk, as well as its recommended diversion of the wastewater from a northern to a southern catchment basin. I can see the projections and the predicted metrics, helping me understand the full picture of what's likely to happen if I make the diversion or if I don't. And so there's a trade-off here, as you can see. On one hand, there's a 24% risk of overflow if I take no action. And on the other hand, the proposed diversion routes wastewater to a less effective or efficient wastewater treatment plant. I'm increasing the total treatment cost that's above a threshold parameter that I have in the system. So this is why the AI is unable to facilitate this action automatically. It needs my input and my approval to progress. I might also want to dig into what's behind these calculations, so I can take a look at what assumptions, data models, calculations, and simulations were behind making that recommendation. I can do that right here as well. So based on this information, I do decide that the best path is to go ahead and in fact approve this diversion. I approve the diversion in the system. Downstream actions flow automatically, and approval processes and communications kick off as well. I can monitor them and see how it plays out to ensure it plays out as I expected. So in a situation like this, the automatic capture of all of our decisions and reasoning is essential. We need the platform to keep a full history of all of our actions, whether it was done by a human or by the AI, along with the associated context and the state of the world. And we can do that all within AIP. This enables me to show regulators why I took decisions, what the circumstances, and what alternatives were presented when I made those decisions. I can also use this to inform future operations, planning, as well as train the AI for future events. The great thing is all of this is controllable. AIP allows me to be in the loop of all of our AI automations, the data they're using, the patterns of reasoning that they're relying on, the guardrails that are set around it, and it makes sure that it's performing accurately. It also enforces these guardrails. So the level of actions, the criticality where a human needs to be in a loop is decided ahead of time. And then we can also dig in further to those actions, how it was all generated, and of course, create a report at any time. All right, so in the last scenario, we're gonna look at how we leverage AIP for future planning long term. So in the aftermath of the storm, it's sort of, it's ticked off a few things for me. I want to think about long-term planning of my wastewater treatment facility. So I want to re-examine my long-term plans. I want to not only use historical information, but also forward-looking data, right? So to really create a complex scenario for my simulation. So let's go ahead, we're going to build a case study that looks 30 years into the future. So we're first going to start with our current world and layer in things like population growth, urban development, and of course climate change. We're first going to ask the AIP assistant to pull in plans for development and the forecasted population growth. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the top 10% of storms last year and then add 25% to that, which is what's been recommended by the AI. And that's going to build our case study for future planning. So now I want to test how our current infrastructure would fare in this scenario. So as the simulation runs, it shows me that there's several overflow risks. I want to look into the infrastructure level changes to prevent this from happening well into the future. So in the past, being an engineer, I know I used to do this. I sit down and work on simulations and think about different analyses and simulations that I would do to prevent this. And it would have taken maybe months or years to really think about what the potential impacts are. So now with AIP, we can use this immediately in real time to help us understand what exactly can be done. So what it shows me is adding wastewater treatment plants or storage tanks would of course solve this problem, but at a huge monetary and environmental cost. So we're going to see if we can improve our networks of resilience by improving our ability to divert wastewater within the system. So, for example, I asked the AIP assistant if any wastewater treatment plants or tanks have spare capacity in the system, and it identifies 3 for me. I then asked for it to make recommendations or adjustments to the system to improve or rebalance capacity. So it takes into account all the other factors that I've outlined: population growth, urban development, and it recommends that I consider installing 2 new pipes. So I can adjust this further, but for now I'm just going to go ahead and generate a report that captures this case study, gives me my recommendations for my stakeholders, shows me all of the data and simulations that went into the analysis. And again, if you think about it, this would have taken us a long time to pull this all together, with probably a lot of different opinions around what it looked like, and tweaking any of those assumptions would have, created a lot of recycle and churn. So we're really excited about where we're going. You can see we're developing an end-to-end solution that brings everything together, whether that's security for mission-critical infrastructure. It provides control that keeps humans in the loop at every step of the way where you prescribe it. And it's real time. It provides us actionable AIP assistance to deliver those in-the-moment decisions for simulations, long-term planning, and it helps us make sense out of the massive volumes of data that we're creating all of the time. And it gives our operators this natural language interface to interact with to really make these complex decisions when they need to be making them. And of course, it always has the ability to show us the context, the inputs, why decisions were made. I'm excited, if you can't tell, about our relationship with Palantir, mostly because it's going to allow us to solve problems at a pace and a scale, and it's really that pace, right, that's going to have a tremendous impact on the world around us, for all of our people, our customers, our stakeholders. And although we talked about just wastewater treatment today, I hope you see the applicability to a lot of different markets or industries and sectors around how we can leverage the power of AIP, deep domain expertise, as Bob talked about, to really improve our world around us. So thank you very much.
So if that didn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. And when I watched this AIP Con presentations, I felt so proud as a Palantir shareholder, because I mean, here they were helping millions of people with their wastewater, and then it was clear that Jacobs is an engineering consultant firm, so they handle these kind of problems for millions and millions of people. And then on this AIP, you had hospitals where they had like 37 million patient visits and 45,000 doctors. And I think it's so cool that Palantir is helping these huge organizations handle their toughest problems. So I think this was the main takeaways from AIP Con. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao.